Harry Maguire speaks out, why he wants to change VAR forever. Welcome back to United Daily Updates, your #1 trusted source for everything Manchester United. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel right now. We bring you daily content covering all the latest news, tactical analysis, player interviews, and honest opinions about our beloved club. We're here for the real fans who want the truth, not just the headlines. Today we're diving into something that every single United fan has an opinion about. VAR. The video assistant referee system that was supposed to make football fairer but has instead become one of the most controversial topics in the game. And now, one of our own players has spoken out about it in a big way. Harry Maguire, our experienced defender and former captain, has made his feelings crystal clear. He wants major changes to how VAR works. Not small tweaks. Not minor adjustments. He wants to strip it down to just 2 uses. That's it. 2 things and nothing else. So what does Maguire actually want? Why does he feel this way? And more importantly, has VAR really been as bad for Manchester United as it feels? Let's break it all down in detail. The moment that started a conversation. Before we get into what Maguire said, let's talk about the moment that brought all of this back into focus. It was a dramatic night at Old Trafford. Manchester United versus Leicester City in the FA Cup 4th round. The game was tight. Leicester had taken the lead late in the first half. United were pushing for an equaliser. The clock was ticking down. Joshua Zirkzee came off the bench and scored to level things up in the 68th minute. The crowd was buzzing. But nobody wanted extra time. Everyone wanted a winner. Then, deep into injury time, Harry Maguire rose highest in the Leicester box. The ball came in. Maguire's head met it perfectly. The net bulged. Old Trafford exploded. United had won it at the death. But then something strange happened. Or rather, something strange didn't happen. There was no VAR check. No lines being drawn. No referee looking at a monitor. The goal stood immediately. United had won. Why? Because there was no VAR in operation for that particular FA Cup tie. And here's the thing. Replays showed that Maguire was actually in an offside position when the ball was played. If VAR had been there, the goal would have been ruled out. United would have gone to extra time. Maybe they would have won anyway. Maybe not. We'll never know. Leicester manager Ruud van Nistelrooy, who used to play for United, was understandably frustrated after the game. He said they were defeated in offside time, not Fergie time. He had a point. Even Ruben Amorim, our own manager, admitted it. He said with VAR it's not a goal. He acknowledged it was hard to lose like that with an offside play. But he also said United deserved a bit of luck after everything they'd been through this season. The FA quickly announced that VAR would be used in all remaining FA Cup ties from the 5th round onwards. The Maguire goal controversy had made them act fast. But here's what makes this interesting. Maguire himself knows the goal was offside. He's seen the replays. He knows VAR would have ruled it out. And yet, when asked about VAR on a television show called A League of Their Own, he didn't back down from his position. He still wants major changes to the system. That takes some courage. It would have been easy for Maguire to say nothing, to avoid the controversy, to let the story die down. But instead, he spoke his mind. And what he said is worth paying attention to. What exactly did Maguire say? Let's get to the actual quote. When asked about VAR and what changes he would make, Harry Maguire was clear and direct. He said, "I'd get rid of it all except for goal line technology and offsides, they are factual." Think about that for a second. Maguire wants to completely remove VAR from decisions about penalties, red cards, handballs, fouls, and everything else. The only 2 things he wants to keep are goal line technology and offside decisions. Why those 2? Because, as Maguire says, they are factual. There's no interpretation needed. Either the ball crossed the line or it didn't. Either the player was offside or they weren't. These are black and white decisions that technology can help with accurately. But everything else? Maguire wants it gone. He wants referees to make those calls in real time without VAR getting involved. No more spending 3 minutes looking at a monitor to decide if a handball was deliberate. No more checking if a tackle deserved a red card from 5 different angles. Just let the referee call it as they see it and move on. This is a radical position. Most of the debate around VAR is about how to improve it, how to make it faster, how to make it more consistent, how to train referees better. But Maguire is basically saying forget all that. Just get rid of most of it and go back to trusting referees. Now, before we go any further, let's acknowledge something important. Maguire has personal experience with VAR going both for him and against him. He's not just some random person with an opinion. He's someone who has lived through the VAR experience week after week, season after season. Maguire's personal history with VAR. Harry Maguire has been on both sides of controversial VAR decisions throughout his career at Manchester United. Let's look at some of the key moments. The Leicester winner we just talked about is obviously the most recent and most dramatic example. Maguire scored what should have been an offside goal, but it counted because VAR wasn't there. He celebrated with the fans at the Stretford end. It was a huge moment for him personally. But there have been plenty of times when VAR has gone against him or against United. Back in 2021, Maguire actually spoke out about VAR decisions and how he felt Jurgen Klopp's public comments were influencing referees. He wasn't happy about the pattern he was seeing. Throughout his time at United, Maguire has experienced the frustration that all United fans feel. Watching decisions go to VAR. Waiting for the verdict. Hoping it goes your way. Being disappointed when it doesn't. He's also been personally involved in controversial moments. Challenges he's made that were reviewed. Penalties given against him. Red card incidents. All the stuff that VAR is supposed to help clarify but often just makes more confusing. So when Maguire talks about VAR, he's not speaking from ignorance. He's speaking from years of experience at the highest level. That gives his opinion weight. Understanding the current VAR system. Before we dive deeper into whether Maguire is right or wrong, let's make sure we all understand how VAR currently works in the Premier League. VAR stands for Video Assistant Referee. It's a system where there are officials watching the game on video screens. They can see multiple camera angles. They can slow things down. They can zoom in. And they can communicate with the referee on the field. VAR is currently used to check 4 main types of incidents. Goals, to make sure there was no offense in the build-up. Penalty decisions, both to award them and to overturn them. Red card incidents, to confirm if someone should be sent off. And mistaken identity, to make sure the right player gets punished. There's also the concept of clear and obvious error. VAR is only supposed to intervene if the referee has made a clear and obvious mistake. It's not meant to re-referee the whole game. It's meant to catch the howlers, the really bad calls that everyone can see are wrong. The problem is that clear and obvious has become a very subjective term. What's clear and obvious to one person might not be to another. And that's where a lot of the controversy comes from. The Premier League also introduced semi-automated offside technology last season. United's game against Newcastle in April 2024 was the first to use it. This technology is faster and more accurate than the old system of drawing lines manually. It uses tracking technology and artificial intelligence to determine offside positions almost instantly. That's the system we have now. And Maguire wants to strip most of it away. Why Maguire wants penalties out of VAR. Let's focus on one specific thing Maguire said. He doesn't want VAR making penalty decisions. At all. He wants referees to call penalties in real time and that's it. No reviews. No overturns. Just the referee's call stands. Why does he feel this way? Let's think about it from a player's perspective, especially a defender's perspective. Maguire said there have been far too many soft penalties this season. He's right about that. We've all seen it. Penalties given for minimal contact. For handballs where the arm is in a natural position. For challenges that in previous eras would have been considered fair. Part of the problem is that when you slow things down and zoom in, everything looks worse. A coming together that looks fine at full speed looks like a foul when you watch it frame by frame. A handball that was clearly accidental looks more suspicious when you freeze it at the moment of contact. Maguire also pointed out something interesting. He said penalties decide football matches and are such an important part of the game. He's absolutely right. A penalty is basically a 75 to 80% chance of scoring a goal. One penalty can change everything. The entire momentum of a match. The final result. Everything. So when VAR is awarding soft penalties, it's having a massive impact on games. More impact than almost any other decision except maybe red cards. Maguire said it should be a clear and obvious penalty. If it's not completely obvious that it's a penalty, don't give it. Let the game flow. Let the players play. Don't turn every tiny contact in the box into a huge drama. He also made a point about wanting football to remain a contact sport. He wants the game to be aggressive. He wants hard but fair challenges to be allowed. And he's worried that VAR is making referees too cautious, too willing to penalize normal physical contact. Now, you might say that's easy for Maguire to say because he's a defender. Of course, he doesn't want penalties given against him. And he admitted that himself. He said, obviously I'm a defender and I would say that. He knows he's biased. But put yourself in his shoes for a moment. You make a challenge. You think it's fair. You've timed it well. You've got the ball. But then VAR decides to look at it. They slow it down. They zoom in. They find some tiny bit of contact. And suddenly you've given away a penalty. Your team might lose because of it. How frustrating would that be? The red card debate. Maguire also wants red card decisions to be left to the referee without VAR interference. Same logic as penalties. Let the referee decide in the moment. Don't spend 5 minutes looking at replays from 10 different angles. Red cards are huge moments in games. Playing with 10 men for an hour or more is incredibly difficult. It often determines the outcome of the match. So getting these decisions right matters a lot. But here's the thing. Referees miss stuff. Sometimes a player does something off the ball that the referee doesn't see. Sometimes an incident happens so fast that the referee can't process it properly in real time. That's where VAR should help, right? Maguire's counter-argument would probably be that those incidents have always been part of football. Referees miss things. Players sometimes get away with stuff. That's just how it is. And trying to catch every single thing with video replay slows the game down and takes away from the spontaneity and flow that makes football beautiful. There's also the issue of interpretation. Is a tackle a yellow card or red card? That's often subjective. Different referees see things differently. Different eras of football have different standards. VAR doesn't remove that subjectivity. It just adds another layer of officials giving their opinion. When VAR gets involved in a red card decision, we often see the referee go to the monitor. They watch the incident multiple times. Then they make a call. But here's the question. Are they really making their own decision? Or are they just going along with what VAR has told them? There's evidence that referees almost always agree with VAR when they're sent to the monitor. Which makes you wonder if the VAR official is essentially making the decision, not the on-field referee. Maguire wants to avoid all that. Just let the referee make the call. If they get it wrong, they get it wrong. But at least the game keeps flowing and we don't have these long interruptions. Why keep goal line technology? Maguire specifically said he wants to keep goal line technology. That's the system that uses cameras and sensors to detect whether the ball has fully crossed the goal line. It gives an instant answer. Within seconds, the referee's watch vibrates if the ball has crossed the line. Goal or no goal? Simple. Why does Maguire want to keep this but get rid of most other VAR functions? Because goal line technology is factual. There's no interpretation involved. Either the ball crossed the line or it didn't. The technology can tell us with absolute certainty. There's no debate about it. No arguments. No controversy. It just works. And it works fast. Games don't stop for minutes while officials figure it out. It's instant. Think back to before goal line technology existed. Remember those moments when a ball bounced on the line and nobody could quite tell if it went in? Those were agonizing. And sometimes they led to massive injustices. Goals that should have counted didn't. Or goals that shouldn't have counted did. Goal line technology solved that problem completely. And it did it without slowing the game down or causing controversy. That's the gold standard for how technology should help football. Maguire recognizes this. He sees that goal line technology works perfectly. It's what technology in football should look like. Clear. Fast. Accurate. Factual. Why keep offside checks? The other thing Maguire wants to keep is offside checks. Again, because they're factual. A player is either in an offside position or they're not. It's a matter of geometry and positioning. There's no subjective interpretation required. Now, offside checks have been controversial. The old system of drawing lines on the screen took forever. Games would be stopped for 2 or 3 minutes while VAR drew lines to see if someone's armpit was offside by a centimeter. It was ridiculous and frustrating. But the new semi-automated offside system is much better. It's faster and more accurate. It uses technology to track player positions automatically. The decision comes much quicker. It's getting closer to the goal line technology standard of being fast and certain. Maguire is willing to live with offside checks because they're dealing with facts, not opinions. And with the improved technology, they're not slowing the game down as much as they used to. There's also the practical reality that offside is really hard for linesmen to call in real time. Players are fast. The offside line is constantly moving. It's asking a lot of a human being to get those calls right consistently, especially when margins are tiny. So having technology help with offside makes sense. It's one of the clearer cases where VAR genuinely improves the game without too much downside. The problem with subjective decisions. The core of Maguire's argument is really about subjectivity versus objectivity. He wants VAR for objective factual decisions. He doesn't want it for subjective interpretive decisions. Think about what makes a penalty. Was there contact? Yes, obviously there was contact. But was it enough contact to be a foul? That's subjective. Did the defender play the ball first? Maybe. But was the follow-through too dangerous? Subjective again. Was the attacker looking for it? Was there simulation involved? All subjective. The same with red cards. Was it violent conduct? Was it serious foul play? Was it a genuine attempt to play the ball? Did the player have control of their challenge? These are all judgment calls. Reasonable people can disagree. When VAR gets involved in these subjective decisions, it doesn't make them objective. It just moves the subjective judgment from the on-field referee to the VAR official. And then we get even more confused because now we have two officials potentially disagreeing about a subjective call. The clear and obvious error standard was supposed to help with this. VAR was only meant to overturn decisions that were clearly wrong. But in practice, what's clear and obvious to one person isn't to another. So we end up with inconsistency anyway. Maguire's solution is simple. If a decision is subjective, just let the referee call it and move on. Accept that referees will get some wrong. They always have. They always will. But at least we don't waste time and create confusion by having multiple officials debate subjective points. How United have been affected by VAR. Now let's talk about something that's really important to us as United fans. How has VAR actually affected Manchester United? Has it been fair? Or have we been getting the rough end of it? According to ESPN's analysis, United have had more VAR decisions go against them than for them in the 2024-25 season. That's a fact. The numbers don't lie. Here's the stunning statistic. There were 0 incidents across the whole season where a VAR intervention led to a goal for United. 0. Not one single time did VAR help United score. But there were 2 decisions overturned that allowed goals against United. And 3 interventions to disallow United goals. Think about that. VAR has cancelled out more United goals than it has helped United score. That's a net negative for us. 5 incidents against us. 0 in our favour. How is that fair? Let's talk about some specific examples. The De Ligt handball against Liverpool. That was controversial. De Ligt's arm was up but he was very close to the ball. Different referees might have called that differently. But VAR decided it was a penalty. Liverpool scored. That might have cost us points. Amad Diallo's last-minute goal against Fulham being disallowed. United thought they had won the game. The fans were celebrating. Then VAR spotted something in the build-up and ruled it out. Heartbreaking. There was also the incident against Brighton where Alejandro Garnacho had a goal ruled out by VAR. United ended up losing that game 2-1. If the Garnacho goal had stood, the result might have been different. These aren't small moments. These are points on the table. These are differences between winning and losing. And they all went against us. Now, you might say every team feels like VAR goes against them more than it helps them. And that's probably true. Nobody remembers the decisions that went their way as much as the ones that went against them. That's human nature. But the statistics back up the feeling that United fans have. We genuinely have been on the wrong end of VAR more often than the right end this season. The Laney Euro penalty incident. Let's talk about a recent example that perfectly illustrates the problem with VAR and penalties. The game against Crystal Palace. Laney Euro, our young defender, made a challenge in the box. Jean-Philippe Mateta went down. The referee pointed to the spot. Penalty to Palace. Now, was it a penalty? That depends who you ask. Some people thought it was just clumsy defending. Euro was trying to make a tackle. He mistimed it slightly. There was contact. In the Premier League, that's usually given as a penalty these days. Other people thought it was soft. They thought Mateta made the most of it. They thought it was the kind of challenge that in previous eras would never have been a penalty. They thought the referee was too quick to blow. The interesting thing is that VAR didn't get involved to overturn it. They checked it, as they always do with penalties. But they decided it wasn't a clear and obvious error. So the penalty stood. Palace scored. United had to fight back from behind. This is exactly the kind of situation Maguire is talking about. It's a subjective call. The referee made a decision in real time. Maybe he got it right. Maybe he got it wrong. But because it's subjective, there's no clear answer. If we didn't have VAR at all, the referee would have made that call and that would be it. We might disagree with it but we'd move on. Instead, we had a pause while VAR checked it. Everyone held their breath. Then the decision was confirmed. But did that make anyone happier? Did that make the decision any less controversial? No. Euro himself looked devastated when he came off. He's young. He's still learning. Making mistakes is part of that process. But having every mistake reviewed by VAR and potentially punished adds extra pressure. It makes defending more difficult and more stressful. The debate among players. Here's something interesting that Maguire revealed. He was asked how the Manchester United dressing room feels about VAR. His answer was revealing. He said there's a split. Some players want to get rid of it. Others want to keep it. He also said VAR offsides do kill goal celebrations a bit. Think about that for a second. You score a goal. Your teammates run to celebrate with you. The fans are going crazy. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, did someone's toe happen to be offside? Is VAR going to take this away from us? Should I even celebrate yet? That's no way to experience one of football's greatest moments. Scoring a goal should be pure joy, not cautious optimism followed by relief if VAR confirms it's okay. Maguire said that in the back of their minds, players think whether or not it's a goal. They're not sure. They can't fully celebrate. They have to wait for VAR to tell them if they're allowed to be happy. That takes something away from the game. He also revealed that strikers might feel differently than defenders. Strikers might want VAR to give them more penalties for contact in the box. Defenders want fewer soft penalties given against them. So there's a natural divide based on position. But what's clear is that even among professionals who play the game at the highest level, there's no consensus that VAR has improved things. If the players themselves are divided, that tells you something. The fan experience. Let's talk about us. The fans. How has VAR affected our experience of watching Manchester United? Be honest. How many times this season have you celebrated a United goal only to then worry that VAR might rule it out? How many times have you been frustrated by long delays while VAR checks something? How many times have you disagreed with a VAR decision and felt like the game was being taken away from the fans? One of the worst things about VAR is the waiting. You don't know what's being checked. You don't know what angle they're looking at. You don't know what the conversation is between the VAR official and the referee. You're just sitting there waiting. Or standing there in the stadium wondering what's happening. And then when the decision comes, half the time you disagree with it anyway. So you've waited 3 minutes for a decision you think is wrong. How is that improving your experience? There's also the loss of spontaneity. Football used to be immediate. Something happened and you reacted. Now everything has this asterisk next to it. This goal pending VAR confirmation. This is probably a penalty, but let's wait and see what VAR says. It kills the emotion. Think about some of the great United moments from before VAR. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's winner in the Champions League final. That moment of pure chaos and joy as the ball hit the net. Imagine if we'd had to wait 3 minutes while VAR checked if Teddy Sheringham was interfering with play. It would have completely killed the moment. Or Cristiano Ronaldo's free kick against Portsmouth. The celebration. The emotion. The immediate explosion of joy. Now we'd have to wait while VAR checks if someone was offside or if the wall was too close or whatever. VAR takes away those perfect moments. And for what? To reduce errors? Except the errors haven't gone away. They're just different errors now. VAR errors instead of referee errors. The argument for keeping VAR. Now, to be fair, let's look at the other side. There are good arguments for keeping VAR even if it's imperfect. The main argument is justice. The idea that we should try to get decisions right even if it takes a bit longer. The logic is that a 3-minute delay is worth it if it means a goal is correctly ruled out for offside rather than standing when it shouldn't. Think about the times before VAR when your team was the victim of a terrible decision. A goal that was 5 yards offside but the linesman missed it. A blatant handball that the referee didn't see. A red card tackle that went unpunished. Those moments were infuriating. You felt cheated. You felt the game was unfair. VAR was supposed to fix those injustices. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it catches things that the referee genuinely missed. Sometimes it prevents terrible errors that would have changed the outcome of important games. There's also the idea that players and coaches want correct decisions even if they take time. If you lose a game because of a wrong call, the fact that the call was made quickly doesn't make you feel better. You'd rather have the right call even if it took longer to get there. The argument for keeping VAR for penalties specifically is that penalties are too important to get wrong. They're such big moments. They so often decide games. Shouldn't we make sure we get those decisions as right as possible? And for red cards, the argument is that sending a player off changes everything. It potentially ruins a game as a spectacle. It might affect a player's career or a team's season. So shouldn't we make absolutely sure before we send someone off? These are reasonable arguments. The people who support VAR aren't crazy. They have valid points. The argument for Maguire's position. But let's now look at why Maguire's position makes sense. First, it solves the speed problem. Goal line technology and automated offside detection are both fast. Games don't stop for long periods. The flow continues. That's better for players and fans. Second, it removes the inconsistency problem. When decisions are subjective and VAR gets involved, we end up with one referee making one call and VAR making a different call. Then people argue about which one was right. By leaving subjective decisions to the on-field referee, you have one person's judgment and that's it. It might be wrong sometimes, but at least it's consistent in the sense that one referee is making the call. Third, it recognizes the reality that perfect accuracy is impossible for subjective decisions anyway. You can't have 10 different VAR officials watch the same penalty incident and get the same answer every time. Because it's subjective. People see things differently. So why pretend that VAR makes things objective when it doesn't? Fourth, it preserves the human element of football. Referees are part of the game. Their judgment, their personality, their decisions, those are all part of what makes football what it is. Some referees let games flow. Others are stricter. That variety is okay. It's been part of football forever. Fifth, it makes the game more watchable. Faster. More fluid. Less stopping and starting. More spontaneous celebration. More emotion. All the things that make football the beautiful game. Maguire's position is basically this. Use technology for the things it's objectively good at. Don't use it for things that are inherently subjective. Trust referees to make those subjective calls. Accept that they'll sometimes get it wrong. But maintain the flow and emotion of the game. What other players have said. Maguire isn't alone in having issues with VAR. Many players have spoken out about it over the years. Some players have said they hate the delay in goal celebrations. They want to be able to celebrate properly without worrying about VAR. Other players have complained about how VAR reviews can disrupt the rhythm of a game. You're in the middle of an intense period of play and suddenly everything stops for 3 minutes while VAR looks at something. It kills the momentum. Defenders in particular tend to feel that VAR has made their job harder. They feel like they can't make challenges anymore without worrying that VAR will find something wrong with it. They feel like attackers are being rewarded for going down easily because VAR will often side with them. Even some referees have privately expressed frustration with VAR. They feel like their authority is being undermined. They make a decision and then VAR second guesses them. It's hard to be confident in your calls when you know VAR might overrule you. The point is that there's significant unease among the people actually involved in playing and officiating the game. It's not just fans moaning. The participants themselves have concerns. The Premier League VAR vote. Something interesting happened in 2024. Wolves proposed that Premier League clubs vote on whether to get rid of VAR entirely. This was a serious proposal that got to the stage of an actual vote. Maguire spoke about this at the time. He acknowledged that opinions were divided. He said some people want to keep VAR. Others want to get rid of it. He said the popular thing at the moment is to say get rid of it, but he wanted to give a balanced view. Ultimately, the clubs voted to keep VAR. But the fact that there was even a vote shows how controversial it has become. If VAR was clearly making things better, nobody would be proposing to scrap it. The vote result doesn't mean everyone is happy with VAR. It just means that most clubs think keeping it and trying to improve it is better than getting rid of it entirely. But the dissatisfaction is real and widespread. How other leagues handle it. It's worth noting that different leagues around the world use VAR differently. The rules aren't exactly the same everywhere. The standards for intervention vary. The technology used varies. Some leagues use VAR more aggressively. More interventions. More overturns. Other leagues use it more sparingly. They stick closer to the clear and obvious error standard. The Premier League tends to be somewhere in the middle. But there have been calls for Premier League VAR to be used less frequently, to allow more decisions to stand, to only intervene for genuine howlers. Part of the problem is that we're still figuring out how VAR should work. It's a relatively new technology. Different approaches are being tried. The system is evolving. But that evolution is happening live, with real games and real consequences. That's frustrating for everyone involved. Some people look at how VAR works in other leagues and say we should copy that. Others say the Premier League should do things its own way. There's no consensus. The psychological impact on players. Here's something we don't talk about enough. The psychological impact VAR has on players. For defenders like Maguire, every challenge now comes with the worry that VAR might penalize you. You have to think twice before going in for a tackle. You have to worry about where your arms are. You have to be conscious of VAR cameras all the time. That's got to be exhausting. Football is instinctive. It's about reacting in the moment. But when you're constantly worried about VAR, you start overthinking. You hesitate. You second-guess yourself. For strikers, there's the opposite problem. Every time they go down in the box, they know VAR might give them a penalty even if the referee doesn't. So there's an incentive to exaggerate contact, to make sure the referee or VAR sees it. That's not good for the game. And for all players, there's the emotional toll of having goals ruled out or conceded based on VAR reviews. The highs and lows are more extreme. The uncertainty is greater. The stress is higher. Maguire mentioned that he feels he's been in a good place mentally for the last 18 months to 2 years. He's worked hard on his game and his mindset. But having to deal with VAR controversy on top of everything else doesn't make that easier. What would football look like without most VAR? Let's imagine Maguire gets his wish. VAR is stripped back to just goal line technology and offside checks. What would that actually look like? Referees would go back to making real-time decisions on penalties without VAR review. Sometimes they'd get it right. Sometimes they'd get it wrong. But the game would keep flowing. No more 3-minute delays. No more monitor reviews. Just the referee's call. Red card decisions would be the referees alone. Again, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but immediate. No more sending the referee to the monitor to watch an incident 10 times in slow motion. Handball decisions would be up to the referee. No more debates about arm positions and whether it was deliberate. Just the referee's judgment in the moment. Goals would still be checked for offside, but quickly using the automated system. And goal line technology would still confirm if the ball crossed the line. But that's it. The game would be faster. More fluid. Less stop-start. More spontaneous. More emotional. But also potentially less accurate on some decisions. Is that trade-off worth it? Maguire thinks so. A lot of fans think so. But it's a legitimate debate. The commercial reality. Here's something cynical but true. The Premier League and broadcasters have invested heavily in VAR. Sky Sports, BT Sport, and other broadcasters use VAR reviews as content. They show the replays. They have pundits debate the decisions. It fills time. It creates talking points. Getting rid of VAR would mean admitting that investment was a mistake. It would mean embarrassment for everyone who promoted it. It would mean loss of content for broadcasters. That doesn't mean VAR is being kept just for commercial reasons. But it does mean there are powerful interests who want VAR to succeed and who are resistant to scaling it back. When Maguire or other players speak out against VAR, they're going up against those interests. The football authorities don't want to admit VAR has problems. The broadcasters don't want to lose the content. The technology companies don't want their systems to be seen as failures. So even if Maguire is right, and even if most fans agree with him, making actual changes is difficult because of these institutional and commercial factors. What Ruben Amorim thinks. Our manager Ruben Amorim has made some interesting comments about VAR. After the Maguire goal against Leicester, he admitted it wouldn't have stood with VAR. He said it's important to have VAR because it's fair for the game. But he also said United deserved a little bit of luck. He acknowledged that sometimes things go against you and sometimes they go for you. That's football. Amorim seems to take a pragmatic view. He accepts VAR is part of the modern game. He works within the system. But he also understands the frustrations.